Hey everyone, this is the Coffee with a Geek program. We'll call this the Spring 2016 uh, version, podcast version. And I have a really awesome guest, as always. I have Eric Curts from Ohio, and I'm going to have Eric talk about all the great stuff he's done. But let me just give a quick overview of Eric's background. He's been in education for 24 years. And Eric, it goes by fast. I'm sure you can attest to
Oh,
that.
jeez, yes.
And at the moment, you are serving as the Technology Integration Specialist for the Stark Portage Area Computer Consortium in Canton. And I believe you call that SPARC
Yes.
in Ohio. And you've been overseeing the Google Apps for Education implementation, training, and support for teachers.
Hmm.
And doing some online learning stuff. Love
Yes.
that. And other tech integration initiatives. For some of your certifications, you have the Google Education Trainer
Hmm.
certification and Google Certified Innovator. I'm going to ask you a little bit about that. And again, so that means you can talk about Google Apps for schools and organizations throughout not only Ohio, but throughout the country.
Yes.
And I would say last but not least, but I think there's more to it. You're part of the you're the co-leader of the Ohio Google Educator group. And if you haven't seen one of those, feel free to find your local chapter of GEG or GEG. And you're married, 4 children, so that I'm sure is keeping you busy outside of your professional life. And you have your personal website, which is ericcurts.com. But what I want to talk to you about first is your professional website, which is Ctrl Alt Achieve. And this is where I came across you digitally. And a colleague said, you got to check out this website, Ctrl Alt Achieve. And I looked at it, and Eric, I got to tell you, it just blew me away because you've been doing kind of, I guess, talking the talk with Google Apps for Education. You're using so much of Google Apps for Education. So can you tell us about maybe start there with the genesis of that website and maybe transition into how that works with your professional work?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me on. And I feel a little bad. I don't drink coffee. So if this episode can be Coca-Cola with a geek, then or Coke Zero with a geek, then we'll be okay. I
That
apologize.
works.
I get my caffeine carbonated. But I'm going to go ahead and I'll share my screen and pull up the Control Alt Achieve website just so you have that there as I do a little bit of a chat about that. So yeah, basically. I've been in education for 24 years, and as far as using technology, pretty much that whole time. Very early on in my teaching career, I taught 8th grade math for 7 years before moving into exclusively a technology integration position after that. But even as a math teacher, very early on, I was the tech guy in the building. And so you'd go to Eric if something was broken or you needed help with whatever. And so I've had a lot of educational technology initiatives over the years. And really, basically, what it came down to is I decided I needed to pull everything under one umbrella. I was just spread too thin with too many different websites. Many people who have known me before are probably familiar with a site I ran called Apps User Group. That's where I had all of my Google related things, but then I also had a site for web app reviews, and I had a site for this and that, and so many different things. And I said, okay, this is all just got to get pulled together in one place so I can just give people one address, and that's where all my stuff is at. But at the same time, I also wanted to not feel limited to only talk about Google things. Yeah, I'm definitely a Google advocate, and most of the things I talk about are Google related. But I didn't want to just talk about that. I wanted to talk about technology in general and how it can transform teaching and learning. And so that's where Control Alt Achieve came from. I just thought, okay, well, what do I want to call this? What's it all about? And for me, it was the idea that we're all familiar with Control Alt Delete on a computer to reboot something, to get a fresh start, to break out of something that's frozen. And that was the idea, that we want to take technology and reboot education. We want to transform the teaching and learning that's happening. We want to break out of the ruts that we're stuck in. And so I started this site back in December. So it's only been, I guess, really active since January. So it's about 4 or 5 months old at this point. But I brought a ton of things into the site from my other sites. So I kind of started sunsetting those other sites and moving those resources onto this site. So basically it's CtrlAltAchieve.com. And what you're going to find, there are a couple of different things. First of all, you're going to find the blog. And so I try to post 2, 3, 4 times a week. It just depends. Some weeks are easier than others, on lots of different topics, but hopefully in each case, it's things that are very specific to teaching. So like I'm hovering above one right now, a random writing prompt generator using Google Sheets, so it's how can you take Google Sheets and use some random functions. I even showed people if they want to learn more about the random function as to exactly how I'm doing that. I do give them the code in there for that. But the main point of it is if you come in here and you click on the actual template that I created here, it will go ahead and open up a Google Sheet where it gives you 20 randomly generated prompts that students could use to write poetry or write a story or things like that. So I always try to have it be very practical for how a teacher could turn right around and use this in their classroom, because that's what we want. We want technology to transform what's happening in our class, to inspire creativity, collaboration, communication, critical thinking, things like that. So that's the first part of the site, is going to be the blogs. Next to that is a tab for resources. And this is where I just try to pull together all of the help guides, training videos, slideshows, any resources I have on any topic. So if you come here and click on my Google Drawings, for example, and that will pull up all of my different help guides, my training videos, my slideshows on drawings in general, or for graphic organizers, or teaching math with Google Drawings, or desktop publishing, or whatever it might be. And so you can just go into one topic and get all my info. Next to that, I then have my webinars tab. I try to do about 2 webinars a month, and that is through my job here that I do at Spark, and they typically are Google related as well. Not necessarily all of them, but the typical focus is Google related. And so I also pull all my webinars into one location here, where basically they're an hour long each. They're free. Anybody can watch them. If you go and watch the video, all the resources related to that training are below it. And at the very bottom of the page for each of the webinars, there's a quick quiz you can take to prove you watched it, and it'll generate a PDF certificate of attendance for 1 contact hour that you can turn into your school if you're looking to get a few more hours to turn in for PD. So basically that's the gist of it. Now there's also my newsletter and my services I provide and stuff like that, but mainly it's the blog, it's the resources, and it's the webinars, hopefully all in a nice one-stop shop in one place for people to be able to access.
It's really fantastic, and forgive me for interrupting. I wanted to. I've been dying to ask this question. How do you? Is there a script that you use to go from the quiz after people take the webinar to the generation of the completion certificate?
Yeah, and actually, I know this is going to sound very meta, but I did a webinar on how we do the webinars. So if you come in here, it's probably going to be, I may have to run a search for it. I'll just search video PD, and it'll bring up the main page on it. So yeah, here we go. I did a blog post specifically on that, and I did a webinar on it as to how we create our video PD. So basically, it's all free. What we've put together, we're not paying for anything. Now, there's a lot of great tools you could use out there if you wanted to do your video PD, through a commercial product, but we don't have any money. So it's all Google tools. We built the entire system with just Google tools. And so this talks you through, there's the 1-hour recorded webinar where I explain the entire process. There's a slideshow, but then down below I explain how it works. Now, this is a little bit outdated. We've got 36 webinars now, and we've had over 60,000 views on those. So they get a lot of attention and a lot of use, which is great. But then I list our process, and I have linked in here all of the templates. So everything I've developed are completely free for anybody to copy in any way you want, including how we do exactly what you just asked. Basically, it's a combination of a few scripts. So I have a form, obviously, that's the quiz that feeds the spreadsheet. And from the spreadsheet, I've created some very simple formulas that basically grade the quiz. Now, I'm not using Flubaroo or something like that because I need to do something a little bit different with the data. So basically, I have a tab that has the key of what the right answers are. I compare your answers to those, and I give you a point if you got it right. I use the copy down add-on to pull those formulas down. Then I use the Autocrat add-on to generate the PDF certificate of attendance and send it out to people after they, if they do pass. If they don't pass, Autocrat sends a different thing to them saying, sorry, here, please try again, kind of stuff like that. But everything is right there on the website. If you just go to Ctrl Alt Achieve, and if you run a search for video PD, you'll find it. It's the post from February 16th. Or if you just want to go straight to the webinar, you could go to the webinars tab and you'll see the video PD tab, or the video PD webinars near the bottom. But the post has even more details than just the webinar on its own. But yep, that's all freely available there for anybody who wants to dive into that stuff.
And Eric, was this created, your website, was that created with a Google site or with a Blogger?
I went with Blogger on this. My first site before this, my apps user group site, that was a Google site. I use Google Sites a ton. I really do a lot with Google Sites. Really, really love it. However, having said that, the one thing that Google Sites is truly weak on is proper blogging. It has an announcement page, which you can claim is like blogging. And that's how I used it. I kind of had to twist and turn it and make it work to my advantage when I was doing my other site. But it just really isn't designed for blogging. If you want to have social media icons for people to click on to quickly retweet it or share it, basically you have to use a lot of third-party tools to bring in because it's just not built in automatically. Blogger is just built for that. It's really designed for that. And so the thing that made Blogger possible for me to switch over to, it used to be that Blogger was, as you know, a blog, and then it allowed you to have what they called static pages. Rather than blog posts, you could also have static pages. Well, those were limited to only 10 static pages. That's what it used to be. As much blog as you want, but only 10 static pages. Well, the static pages is what I would use for like my resources. This is a static page, or the page on Google Sheets, that's a static page. All of those are static pages. Well, they removed that limitation, and now Blogger will let you have unlimited static pages. So now you can do a really nice blog and you can have as many static pages as you want. And that was what I needed to, I think, put this exactly the way I wanted it to be.
It really looks nice. I love the formatting of it, the ease of it. Like I said, I'm really just blown away at how useful it is. And I know that's, I think, what you wanted as the creator, but you really achieved it. So.
Well, I totally agree. I think things need to be quick and easy. I mean, years ago, there was a totally different website I ran that was all about connecting the Ohio standards for math, science, social studies, and language arts with technology resources. And the whole point was it had to be 3 clicks, and that was it. You needed to be able to go in, pick your grade level, your subject, the standards you're interested in, and boom, there's your resources. It's got to be quick. You can't be having to jump through a ton of hoops. Educators, we don't have the time. We just need to find what we need and be able to get to it right away. Yeah.
Well, I also I enjoyed your webinars, and you kept them, I think, light and lively within an hour, and provided some really useful tools, and you walked through a really nice kind of organizational structure. When you do your webinars, do you have them pretty much scripted, or?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I do a lot of training face-to-face kind of stuff. I'll be honest with you. It is harder to do a webinar than it is for me to stand in front of 1,000 people. I mean, seriously, because when I'm in front of a whole bunch of people, I don't want to say you can wing it, but to a degree you can. And not that you ever go in without a really solid plan, but you can feed off of them. You can see their faces. If they're not understanding, you can adjust, I guess is what I'm saying. You can modify as you go. You can easily take questions and you can tailor it to them. So you go in with a plan, but you feed off of the audience to make it as practical and personal to them as possible. You do a webinar. Nope. I mean, we do feedback. We have a Google Doc that's our chat document during the webinar. Anybody watching it live could open up that doc. They can type in questions. And if I'm doing the training, my colleague is watching the doc, and vice versa. When he does webinars, I watch the doc for him. And so that helps a little bit. But no, if you're doing a webinar, you're talking to, it feels like nothing. And we'll have a bunch of people watching. I'll have 30, 40, 50 people watching the live webinar, but I'm just talking to my screen, and so there's an adjustment to that. Plus, it's being recorded. So, I mean, if you make a mistake, guess what? It's there forever. If I'm doing a presentation live somewhere, nobody's recording it. So if I goof up, they may remember it, but there's no evidence, that it's actually happened. Whereas with a webinar, you gotta have it right. So actually, I put a lot more time into preparing for a webinar. I run two screens, one screen that I'm sharing. My other monitor on the side has everything I'm going to be using, so I can just drag things over as soon as I need them. I have everything preloaded, queued up. I have an intro and an outro script. I have a bulleted list of what I'm going to go through because I want to make sure it is as efficient and organized as possible. And if I do make mistakes, you just laugh about it because you're human and you move on. I don't do any post-editing or anything like that to them, but so far so good.
So again, coming back to your site and maybe your work, you've done a lot of work with Google educational tools. And can you tell me about how I guess maybe the big picture of Google and what they're doing for education and how maybe you feel that ties into the broader picture of education, but and then maybe tie that into the Google education group in Ohio and how those tie together.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Google Apps is a phenomenal tool for education for a number of reasons. First off, you got just the simple practical things that it's free. So, there's no reason for schools not to use it. You can use it in combination with other things. It's modular. So if you're like, oh, we just want to use the docs portion, we're still going to use Outlook for email. No problem. It's free. It's modular. Use the pieces you want to use. So, there's no real risk, very low barrier to entry. That in itself is good. But what's transformative is the fact that Google's philosophy, it's all built on the 4 C's of 21st century learning. Collaboration, creativity, communication, critical thinking. All of their tools are designed, if you want to make a doc and just keep it for yourself, that's fine, but they're all designed to let you share things, that anything you create, you can share with somebody else. You can co-create. Students can work together. They can do peer editing. Students can turn things into teachers who can give feedback or live collaborate with the students. Students can write things and it no longer just goes to the teacher, gets turned in, gets graded and is done. It can go out to the world. We can now have student writing published online so much easier. So the communication, the ability to do hangouts with people on the other side of the world or talk to a classroom in a different culture or have your American history students talk to a class of kids in England to find out their perspective on the American Revolution, the ability to talk to experts. It's all built on openness. And that's the beauty of Google Apps. It's all about being able to connect with other people, to collaborate, to work together, and to be creative, to make things, to go from consumers of information to creators of things, writing stories, making slideshows. And then the thing is, Google isn't just this thing like this is our playground, it's Google and that's it. They allow all of these third-party tools to work with them. So you got web apps, you got web extensions, you've got add-ons that bring in so many other amazing products, whether it's WeVideo or Powtoon or Lucidchart or LucidPress or whatever it is that can work with your Google account to provide you really with unlimited tools to be able to do stuff. So I just think that they've got the idea right, that it's about empowering teachers and students to collaborate, be creative, to communicate, to think critically. And that's the beauty of it. So that's why I'm in love with Google tools and all of the things in the Google ecosystem and how they can help transform what's happening, because these are the skills our kids need for their future. Yeah, they need the 3 R's. They need to know math and science, and absolutely, but they need to know these 21st century skills to be successful in their future that they're going to be going into. To help support people with this, we do run what's called the Google Educator Group of Ohio. I'll go ahead and share that, pull that screen up here for you. Basically, Google, a couple of years ago, trying to think how long back this was, coming up on maybe 2 years, they said, hey, folks, we would love to have more support out there on local levels. We're doing the best we can to support things from our Google headquarters, but we want more help, on the streets. And so they said, we would love it if people would create what is going to be called Google Educator Groups, GEGs. And so Google kind of laid out the framework. They said, this is what a GEG needs to look like. This is the general idea of how it should behave. But after that, it's kind of up to you to make it unique for your own location. So very soon, as soon as that came out, I said, sure, absolutely, I'll do Ohio. And so I started the Google Educator Group of Ohio back then. And if you're not familiar with GEGs, they use a technology called Google Communities. If you don't know much about Google Communities, I have a webinar entirely on that. You absolutely, if you're a teacher, if you're anywhere in education, a tech person, you should be plugged into Google Communities. It's a phenomenal way to connect with educators all around the world, much like Twitter, very much the same idea. And so it's a Google community, which means basically, you can join the community or you can just lurk and read what's there. What you're going to see, of course, are posts like normal, like you would expect to see. You know, we got posts from me, we got posts from different members of the community on here. And so any post that somebody puts, you can come and you can read their post, you can reply to their post. A little bit of a unique thing about it is there's categories. When you make a post, you have to pick the category you're putting it in. So if I were to create a post, I couldn't just say what I want to say. I also have to pick what category it goes in, which helps to sort of funnel those discussions. I can add photos and links and videos and things like that as well. I'm not just on my own, though. There's 6 of us all together from around the state of Ohio, different folks who are leaders with this group that help organize it. In addition to the website itself, we do several things. We do monthly meetings. Now, of course, the state of Ohio is pretty big, so we can't all get together. So we do them virtually. I mean, I hold them here in Canton, Ohio. So if somebody wants to come to them, that's fine. But we do monthly meetings that are 2 hours long, typically the third Friday of the month in the morning, and they're broadcast as a hangout. So you can watch them live or you can view them later on, where basically we go through everything new in Google Apps from the last month. So if you want to get caught up all at once on every new thing that came out, we cover that. Then we go into sections on Q&A where people can ask any questions they have, and show and tell where people share awesome things that are happening in their districts with Google Apps. We also do face-to-face meetups like at the Ohio Educational Technology Conference, or coming up at the Ohio Google Summit, or some of our own local conferences as well, where we do meetups to get together and have some fun and share neat ideas. So definitely would encourage anybody to join that. If you are curious about getting into the GEG Ohio community, the quickest way to get there, I did make a shortened URL for it. I like to use tiny.cc for most of my shortened URLs. So it's tiny.cc/GEG-Ohio, and that'll get you right to the community.
You mentioned a couple times the word transformation and empowerment. Do you think that's the key, I guess, the key ingredients to what Google's doing?
Well, I would agree so, because when we talk about technology, I'm sure everybody listening is probably very familiar with the SAMR model, you know, substitution, augmentation, redefinition, or modification, redefinition. That it can't just be substitution. Technology can't just be, oh, I bought a Chromebook. We got a whole classroom of Chromebooks, but nothing changes. You know, we keep teaching the same way we always have, and now it's a $200 pencil and a notebook, basically, you know, or we got smart boards and they're just fancy dry erase boards. You know, we can't just substitute. We have to transform. So just the tools themselves, Docs by itself, Chromebooks by themselves, you know, all those tools. No, I mean, there's nothing just intrinsically like, boy, you roll that out and suddenly amazing things happen in your district. It has to get coupled with professional development. It has to get coupled with vision. It has to get coupled with risk taking. People need to have a vision for what technology can do to allow students to do things differently. Because, you know, if not, then we're really not really making a difference. We're kind of wasting that money by purchasing, you know, Chromebooks, or by rolling out, you know, all these different devices we might have. I think the key has to be transformation. We have to always ask ourselves, if I came into your class and took your technology away, would I really change anything? And if the answer is no, you could keep going on, then was that really transforming? You know, are you doing something different with technology that you couldn't have done before? Or we'll say, look at the 4 Cs. Can you check some of those off? Which of the 4 Cs are you doing? Or look at SAMR, or look at the new Blooms, or look at the ISTE standards or the P21 framework. Look at things and say, let's hold them up against this measurement, you know, against this ruler, and say, are you doing some of these things? And if not, we do need to rethink that. You can't make that change overnight. It's not like a teacher should just change every single lesson. My encouragement whenever I do longer trainings like that is I say, pick one lesson, pick one thing you do, and let's change it. Let's transform it with technology. Because then if you do one thing, it's achievable, okay? You don't want to do this massive project because afterwards you're like, holy cow, I'm never doing that again. And other teachers are like, geez, I can't put that much work into it. You do one lesson, you change it in a way that checks off one of the 4 C's, that somehow incorporates technology in a unique way. And then you go, yeah, that wasn't so hard. I can do another lesson and another lesson. And teachers that watch those teachers go, oh, that wasn't too bad. Yeah, I'd be able to do that. And I think that's a really practical way to start implementing and integrating technology change, is have that vision, understand what 21st century skills are, and start making small changes to your lessons. The Google tools are just a really, really, really good option to do that. They're not the only option, but they're a great option because the way they're built lends themselves to that ability to empower students and transform what's happening in your classroom.
I've been fortunate enough to go to the OETC conference for 2 years in a row, and I've met some great educators along the way, and it seems, maybe I'm wrong, I have a limited experience with the other states, but do you feel Ohio in general maybe is providing a culture for innovation and support for education, especially using educational technology?
That's a good question, because I saw that question on your list of possible questions. I'm like, that's gonna be a tough one to answer, but I will give you an answer. First of all, I can't speak to other states. I am positive every state is doing amazing things. I do get to travel as a trainer. I go to New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Ohio. I do kind of that range of states at the moment. And so I see a lot of awesome schools doing awesome things, but I can't really speak to the politics of different states and how things work. I just don't know enough of that. But speaking of Ohio, if I had to say why, I think, because I agree, I think there's some amazing things happening here in Ohio. There's some really, really awesome stuff going on with schools. I think part of it is we're very independent. Again, I don't know how that compares to all the other states, but we don't get, I don't mean this in a negative way, I'm not trying to be negative, but we don't get much direction or I don't want to say assistance, but we don't get a whole lot from Columbus, from our state capital, saying everybody in the state is going to use this LMS, or everybody in the state is going to do this particular project or use this tool. They're very hands off in that. I mean, each district really is very independent. I mean, they can use whatever tools they want, whatever software. Now, sure, we've got standards. We all obviously work off the same standards. But whatever LMS you want, or whatever office suite you want, or whatever curriculum you want to use, we have loads of autonomy here to really do whatever we want. So in a sense, we have freedom. We also don't have a mapped out thing saying you must do this. So we got to figure it out. And I would couple with the fact that not every school, but a lot of schools, we face financial hardships. I know the district I worked in before I moved to the county level, we had a lot of financial hardships with loss of industry that really hurt the financial standing of the town. So you've got to get creative. You've got to say, okay, how can we use technology to provide this amazing education to our students when we don't have a ton of money? And so you become innovative, and you become risk takers, and you become creative, and you collaborate with other people, and you break out of your silo, and you say, well, how did you do it? And so I think we do have a lot of folks that have independence, maybe not a lot of resources, and so we get creative and we come up with some really neat things.
So we've covered a lot of topics just within the questions I've asked, but let me just, what are some maybe inspirations that you go to for your ed tech expertise?
Yeah, that's another tough question, because my answers aren't going to be starting with an HTTP. Okay, I don't have a website to give you. My inspirations, when you wrote up the question, I saw you said who or what.
Yes.
I'll give you a who and I'll give you a what. My who is my kids. That's my inspiration, because I want them to have the best education they possibly can have. And I see that of my 4 kids, they are uniquely different. Each one learns differently. Some play the game of school perfectly. Some school's not their thing. Some I still can't quite figure out. Each of my kids is unique in how they learn and in how they show their knowledge. And that's one of the best things. I mean, having multiple kids has made me a much better educator because they're not like me. You know, I was the perfect student, oh, I want a classroom of Eric's, because I knew how to play the game, Well, that's not always the case. And so seeing them and their uniqueness and my love of technology, they inspire me to say, how can we help meet the needs of all of the kids out there? And so that's the who. The what, my inspiration when it comes to a what, it's going to sound kind of odd, but it's problems. Problems are my inspiration because I see technology as a solution. Okay. Now it's not, like just a magic bullet. You can't just throw technology at it, but technology should make our lives better. It should make us be able to be the teachers we are, but better teachers, make the learners learn better. And so working in a position like I do at the county or working with schools through my private consulting, when they say, we got this issue, how can we accomplish this? Or we're struggling in math with this, or we're finding students are not engaged with this, or problems. I'm a problem solver. That's the thing that gets me excited. When somebody brings a problem, I'm like, give me a minute, let me think about it. Okay, here's an idea. And so I'm inspired by most of my posts. Those come because somebody sent me an email and said, hey, Eric, do you know how to do this? Or we came across a problem. And as I solve the problem, now I simply go online and share what I learned from that.
That's a great way to look at it, and I think that is a nice mindset, I think, framework to think of that, the book Mindsets.
Yeah.
For not only teachers but for students as well. So using technology to fix problems is a good one.
Yes.
All right. Well, I think we're coming up on the Speed Geek questions. I'm going to do my best here to pull those up on the screen. So we're going to go through Wheel Decide, I think is the website I'm using. Oh, there we go. Yeah, choose my screen here. And can you see those?
I see them.
Everyone. All right, here we go. So I'm going to hop onto this screen. And our first one is your favorite social network.
Wow, that's a tough one. I mean, I absolutely love Google Plus for the communities, but I also love Twitter. So I would say at the moment, I use both a lot. I would say that of the two, I'm probably at the moment getting the most interaction from Twitter, especially Twitter chats. If anybody out there doesn't know what Twitter chats are, you absolutely need to plug into one of those. There's a Twitter chat for every possible thing out there, anything that you possibly could be interested in. And it's a fantastic way to break out of your silo and connect with other people all around the world. So I'm going to say Twitter for now.
Good one. Okay, I accidentally hit the button. And
that's fine.
You get 3 questions, so this is the second one. Gryffindor or Slytherin?
Oh, heavens. I guess I'll go with Gryffindor.
Okay.
I don't see myself as a Slytherin.
Okay.
I was afraid Hufflepuff was going to come up. But,
Yeah.
I'm a Hufflepuff. Yeah,
all right, and here we go. We'll hit our last one. Your favorite tablet? Have you worked with tablets, and which one?
Yeah, I do. I've got a Nexus 7, got an old Nexus 7 that I still use. So I'm going to say my old Nexus 7. I'm not so much a mobile person. I absolutely love more of the full experience that I get from either a Chromebook or a Mac or a Windows computer. I am phenomenally excited, though, by the rumors and the news we're hearing about Android apps coming to the Chromebook in mass. We've had little bits and pieces of them, but some code got released not too recently ago that people were looking at that makes it appear, maybe at I/O, we're going to hear an announcement from Google about the full entire Google Play Store being opened to Chrome OS. And if that happens and all the new Chromebooks now with the touchscreens, oh my gosh, what a one-stop shop that's going to be if you can have all the Chrome features, but also all the Android ones. In that case, a touchscreen Chromebook will be my answer for favorite tablet.
Wow. Yeah, it's exciting things on the horizon. So hang on tight.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, Eric, thank you so much for taking your time out of your day. And you're, as all my guests are, you're a real inspiration. And what you're doing really changed the way I approach my professional development. So I'm really looking to what you're doing and trying to model kind of what I'm trying to do as well. So thanks. Keep up the great work, and let's keep in touch.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks so much. If anybody wants to connect with me online, I'm just at Eric Curts, ERICCURTS, and go to CtrlAltAchieve.com. And I guarantee you, I learn so much from other people as well. So thank you so much for anybody that does connect with me. I look forward to growing and learning and working with everybody. Thanks for having me on. I
Great.
really appreciate it.
Thank you, Eric.